Hello my DigiPeeps, welcome to episode 3 of Hawkeye. I can't believe that we're already halfway done with this new MCU show. I just got through watching it and I'm here to break down the latest episode entitled Hide and Seek. Opening into a young Maya Lopez, a deaf girl in a typical setting, sitting in a school classroom, and the use, or should I say lack of use, of any type of sound. This was absolutely perfect. Watching how she was slowly developing her skills in lip reading and understanding how she would live in these two worlds, as her father put it. A very great look into how she started out needing to be smarter, be faster and be stronger than everyone around her. Also an amputee, which was a great addition to this character, in my opinion. I mean, this girl, I love that Marvel has chosen her for this series. To see a Native American, one-legged deaf woman who is going toe-to-toe with Hawkeye, I mean, this stuff just sort of gets me really excited. You know, like seeing these people represented on screen who even more everyday people can relate to. I mean, it's made me a fan of this stuff since I was a young kid. Okay, so cutting to the present day, and we find out that Maya wants Ronan, as he was running rampant. He killed her father, who was a leader of a very early version of the tracksuit mafia. What was interesting here was that Maya came up to her dying father after being stabbed by Ronan, who literally jumps out a window. We see Maya crying over losing the one man in the world she could rely on, and the man who cared for her and looked after her, despite being a major player in the criminal underworld. It was truly a sad scene to see, and yeah, just to see Maya's overall arching story in this series, yeah, it was very interesting to see. So now, given that she has Ronan in her grasp, we see the anger that she harbours for this vigilante and what he has taken from her. And this was just an absolutely excellent scene. Maya grabs Kate and almost chokes her to death, and is actually pulled back by her criminal interpreter. This scene, man, like, it just made me hold my breath, as the anger portrayed by Aquila Cox. I mean, this woman is a hidden gem, and I'm sure Marvel is very enthusiastic about having her on for future projects. I mean, oh man, she portrayed this scene just so masterfully. This was then followed up by one very great action scene with Clint making an escape, and again watching Maya step up to an Avenger and knock him back before he grabbed his bow and arrow. I mean, I actually felt worried for the infamous Hawkeye for a minute. After a few shots from two of the greatest archers in the MCU, with a little flair of course, next came up my favourite scene from the whole episode, the car chase. We were treated to a literal back seat, following camera shot as Clint, who was driving and picking the arrows for Kate to shoot, which was very funny. I mean, this was just hilarious and amazing all at once. Seeing all these comic style trick arrows that Kate almost seemed too afraid to shoot after a while. A putty arrow, an acid arrow, a plunger arrow, a smoke bomb arrow, and then a nice little nod to Ant-Man, a Pimtac arrow. I mean, this one, as you can imagine, blew up a regular arrow to an unprecedented ginormous size. It was the best. And just making this scene all the better was the fact that Clint, who had lost his hearing aid earlier, was saying things that Kate had just exclaimed, and it was a cute little way of showing that these two are on the same page. So again, we're void of any sort of sound as Clint has lost his hearing aid, as he gets a call from his son. Now, this was a very, very close second favourite scene of the episode for me. There was so much to unpack here. Unable to hear his son, Kate rushes to write down and translate for Clint what his son's saying on the other line. Now this was just absolutely touching. Watching Kate help Clint in this small way, helping him after he's helped her out so much. The two just work so well together. The longer this call went on, however, the more heart-wrenching it got. Clint was dancing around the issues at hand, and his son replies with the fact that it's okay if his dad's not home for Christmas. I mean, seeing his tears got me. Watching the sacrifices that Clint is still making, I mean, it could be argued that he has lost so much over the course of the past 10 years in the MCU, and he's still sacrificing. I mean, it was just so sad. Like, when is enough going to be enough for this man? You know, like, oh man, it was so upsetting. This fight's taking everything from him, and it's still taking, and it's like just enough for the poor guy, you know? Hearing him say that he loves his son, and Kate not translating this one, but he just knew to respond with, "I love you more." Honestly, it was just so sad. This was then quickly followed up by Kate and her bright-eyed, bushy-tailed look on everything, the bright spot in this whole story by far. Reminding Clint that he is a role model, and despite the sacrifices, you also gain things from this hero life, that being trick arrows and a cool costume. Oh, and speaking of costumes, we got a tiny little nod to the comic-accurate costume that Clint wears, which he just scoffs at. A full purple costume with wings on his head, like probably something we won't see in the MCU, but I really do love these small nods to all the comic-accurate looks of these characters. Okay, now, so Kate convinces Clint that this Jack, her future stepfather, is a suspect in all of this. He's definitely hiding something, at least to Kate, so the pair decide to go and do some digging, and being found out, the guy actually holds up Clint with his own Ronin sword. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but that's how we ended this episode. Not a bad one, this one, very emotional and some great action. Like I said, hard to believe that we're already halfway through, but I'm really enjoying these small 6-episode seasons with no dip in quality from the big screen. And this episodic week-to-week basis for these shows, I mean, honestly, I can't wait for next week, and I'll definitely be tuning in again. But anyway, what did you think of the episode? Tell me in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you all in the next one.